ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my animated theater. My name is Mr. Cow, and I'm a big fan of the actor Zachary Levi. Zachary Levi. Tangled is probably my second favorite Disney movie. I like the Shazam movies quite a bit as well. And Chuck is also a very fun show. At the end of the day, I really enjoy what this particular actor has to bring to the table when it comes to his roles. Now, he also seems like a very fun guy in real life. But recently, you may have heard that he's become sort of a controversial character. Of course, he endorsed Donald Trump, which is a very controversial thing to do. And also on podcasts like Joe Rogan, he's kind of talked about his version of Christianity, which I do have some concerns about. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about Zachary Levi going on George Janko and talking about replacing Hollywood, which you know, if you know anything about me, that I'm all for that. So, I can't wait to lead you through this video and show you what he has to say. Okay, so the entirety of this video will be linked below, so I recommend that you watch it. A lot of interesting stuff in this. I'm just going to react to the part where Zachary Levi talks about his idea to replace Hollywood and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely check the rest of the video. But this is what I'm reacting to here.
The doors started opening for me in Hollywood. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening. Like this thing that I knew was going to happen is like starting to happen. And I got my first look behind the curtain and I saw how all the sausage was made. And I was so bummed out because it's all it's so broken. Like I assumed.
It's magic. But magic's fake.
I assumed correctly that it was a deeply inhumane industry, but I assumed incorrectly that the inhumanity was somehow the price that we all paid for excellence. Like, you got to go through the crap because then you get to make these great movies and stuff. But then I very quickly found out that by they, I mean the majority of the, let's say, leadership of this industry, like most industries, don't actually care about the quality of the product.
This is a business.
They care about how do we make as much money as we can, squeezing the makers, the actual artists and everybody, how do we squeeze them for every penny while simultaneously like not spending money on the quality of the thing so we can make better margins, so our shareholders are happier and our CEOs make better, like it's...
Yeah, so it's pretty clear looking at decisions that have recently been made in television that, you know, the people in charge don't always care about the art and stuff like that.
So garbage. It's so messed up.
It's showing now in platforms because now there's so many platforms, so many streaming services. So now that's really showing.
Dude, this is crazy.
It's crumbling. But anyway, so I didn't get into acting for those reasons, but they're not reasons why I act. These are hugely important reasons why I think to be an actor, you get the opportunity to tell people, be a part of stories that get to either bring levity into their life and or shine lights on very important things.
Amen.
So I want to talk about that for a second. I think he's hitting on a balance where, I feel like good stories have a balance of bringing levity to people and also, like, pointing out bringing light to important things. A great example of this is the show Star Trek, and because obviously, like, Star Trek is meant to bring levity And that's why it's like send this future utopia where everything's pretty good. But then at the same time, Star Trek also takes the time to talk about politics and philosophy and all these sorts of things that we sort of need to hear. And I think the best stories aren't just escapist, but also aren't just politics, real world type stuff. But the best stories are a balance between those two things.
Can I ask you something? Are you going to be building a work thing for are you going to build like a studio or like a or something business wise that you're going to take reign and you're going to get rid of the thoughts of just squeezing out the artist? And
yes.
Are you?
So when I had that revelation, when my career was just starting, and I saw how broken it all was, I was so bummed out, and I was talking to God, and I was like, I don't know what to do here, because I don't want to do this. I don't, even if you really don't like a thing, if you choose to engage in it, you're complicit in it. You're basically saying, I think it's messed up, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's like, okay.
You're part of the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I felt. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to give my life force and all my creative energy and ideas to a system that's just going to, scramble them all up and take advantage of it all. And I really genuinely believe God told me in that moment, not audibly, but I mean in the way that God...
The same way that you learned as a baby.
Yeah, kind of.
You just knew.
But you can hear it in your soul. And God was like, Zach, you're not wrong. It's very broken. But I, God, am going to fix it. I'm going to make a better version of this, and I'm going to use you to go and do that. Me amongst many other people, I'm assuming. But here's what you got to do, Zach. You got to go sail on this broken boat with everyone on this boat, knowing full well it's going to sink. It's probably in the process of sinking right now. And while you got to ride this boat so you can build up your resources and reputation and all of these various things. So and simultaneously during all of that time, I will be giving you downloads of the blueprint of what the new boat is supposed to look like. And then you'll kind of be building that boat while you're riding this boat. And then at the right moment, you're going to jump ship and you're going to take as many people with you, 2 by 2, if you need to, and go create a better version of what this unfortunately kind of has always been, which is a broken version of itself, which is why Charlie Chaplin and Mary Pickford.
Okay, so to comment on that for a second, it's interesting the idea of like, oh, this boat's sinking, so I'm going to ride it until it's time for me to build this bigger, better boat. And I'm going to take everyone with me to this better boat, and then we'll watch that boat sink. I think it's a very interesting metaphor. But also one thing I want to say is that creating these sorts of things creating these sorts of things is becoming easier and easier by the minute. I've seen some like fan projects and stuff like that recently that have almost equal quality to something you see being produced within the Hollywood machine. So with that being said, it's just becoming so much easier for us to make this stuff on our own without having to sort of sell our souls to the devil, so to speak, or ride on a boat that's sinking. And that's cool. That's a cool benefit that we have in the modern day that we should take advantage of.
And Douglas Fairbanks and all of these silent era OGs, they started United Artists. United Artists is not just some shingle that makes movies to this day. That's, I think, owned by MGM at this point, but they were the original rebel alliance to the empire. Like they realized that they were the ones generating all the value for all these movies. And by the way, they were literally, like, Charlie Chaplin wrote, directed, produced, and starred in his own movies. He wasn't just an actor. He was all of the things. And then he would take these movies and he would give them to whoever he had a contract at the time, MGM, I don't even know who it was. And then they would go and distribute it in their theaters, and they would make the lion's share of the money, while simultaneously, by the way, trying to get into his creative process and tell him how to do this and do that, which is infuriating as a creative. And so they all banded together back in the day and were like, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do our own thing.
So I think that's a really cool story, but also I think what I want to point on here is that there is something about when you're trying to make these sort of like independent, when you're trying to make like these independent sort of stories and stuff like that, when you're trying to make these sort of independent stories and stuff like that, it can help a lot to come together with other people who also have these creative visions. And like you might have skills in this area and I have skills in this area, but I'm very empty in the area that you're skilled in. Then if we come together, we sort of fill in the areas where you need help. And you know, if you have people around you who are good at all these things, then you can make things that are a lot better than if you were just on your own, and you can help them make things that are a lot better. So through, I think, this idea of like banding together and creating these little groups of that could be something like little groups of rebels against the empire, I think that's really cool. Now, let's carry on.
Problem was that the way it used to be, it was all super vertically integrated, which ironically it came full circle on. But it used to be that the studios would exhibit their movies in the theaters that they owned. There was no AMC, there was no ArcLight, there was not Lowe's, there was none of that. It was MGM had MGM theaters and Universal had Universal theaters, and they would be around the country or whatever. And so if you had a title, those would go directly into those theaters. And United Artists didn't have a bunch of theaters to go and put their movies into, so they were still beholden on the old studios in order to get their movies out. So it ultimately didn't work. But
so that's really interesting as well. The idea that at one point we had these theaters that were like owned by these huge movie studios, so then you would have to like have a deal with these movie studios to get your movies seen. But again, now we're in the age of the internet and YouTube and stuff like that, and it's becoming so much easier to actually get your stuff seen and stuff like that.
It's been broken. It's been broken for a really long time, and it's breaking even more now than ever. But we've needed to fix this for a long time. So 25 years ago, I was looking at all of these things, and I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And I think that in order to do that, it's not just a matter of building a place. To answer your question, this is what I'm doing. Not just building a place that's like a new independent studio for creators of all ilk, like movie, television, video games, music, podcasts, and also, not for nothing, but trying to take a lot of agenda out of content. Like I think, I know everyone kind of sits in different political spaces, but I do think that there's been a lot of, I don't know, some people will call it kind of woke agenda or whatever, which is like, oh, let's infuse a whole bunch of stuff into these stories that doesn't need to be there. We're shoehorning it in. And by the way, I believe the same thing about like, trying to shoehorn Jesus into a story. It's like, well, you shouldn't do that either.
Yeah. So this is a big problem I have with stuff like with like a lot of Christian movies, is if it's not like if Jesus isn't spray painted over the cover in, you know, like bright letters, in a manner of speaking, is not a Christian movie. And like it sort of misunderstands the philosophy of what Christianity actually is. And so what bothers me about Christian movies is that the Christianity in the movie is more of like an aesthetic or like a genre than like a philosophy than like the philosophy of the movie. I believe that Christians should make movies with that contain a Christian philosophy. And sometimes that means we are saying Jesus. We are talking about Jesus. After all, that's a big part of the Christian philosophy. But instead, what we've done is we've created a genre that we call the Christian movie genre, but it's actually for Christian moms, right? And those movies are fine. Like, Christian moms should have movies to watch. But also, what about the other people who aren't on board with that style of movie that, you know, should have Christian movies to watch? And that's movies that have that Christian philosophy baked in. And then this is the same problem that we have with a lot of the sort of quote unquote woke agenda in movies, is that again, it's something like they make it something like a setting or like a checklist of like you need to have these things in the movie, whereas there's movies where there is like these sort of more, let's call them woke philosophy, that I actually do enjoy. There's an episode of Star Trek that's about these aliens who have become essentially genderless, but there's certain individual aliens that relate to either being feminine or masculine. And you probably think, oh, well, that sounds like a metaphor for transgenderism. But I think actually at the time, more of what they were going for was they were going for same-sex relationships, is sort of what it seems like. But nonetheless, that video presents it in a way that doesn't actively try and hurt me as a Christian. It doesn't, nothing about it, I feel, was designed just to annoy me. And I disagree somewhat with the message that is pushed in that episode. However, it's done in a respectful way enough that I can enjoy watching that episode. And just a lot of shows aren't doing that anymore. So I think, like, people will try and, like, say, oh, well, you just hate all these sorts of people and stuff like that if you don't enjoy, like, the current state of movies. And I'm so tired of hearing that, because no, the fact is that movies just aren't being made as good movies anymore. They're just this rigid checklist aesthetic of wokeness. And why would anyone want to watch that? In particular, someone who disagrees. But anyway, with that being said, that's where I'm gonna end this video. The video here I'm reacting to is so much longer, so if you feel inclined, check out the entire video. I highly recommend that you do. I enjoyed listening to it. But yeah, so thank you for watching this video. I appreciate all of the engagement I get, and I would love to hear if you have thoughts on anything I said or talked about in this video. I'm always interested in hearing like other people's takes and stuff like that. So, you know, your comments are always welcome, and I would really appreciate it if you liked this video and also subscribed to my channel. I am trying to build this channel up as something that is a little more... I'm trying to build this channel up so my animations and things like that can become bigger and bigger, and every subscriber, every like on a video, and every view counts towards something. So I appreciate all that. Farewell. Don't forget to brush your teeth.